Now that's an excellent smoked sardine. I'm trying to lose some weight. I see myself on camera and I'm like, damn, I had to lose a few pounds there. You guys gotta try out that keto. It's really something else. Why are we here today? Good question. We've been doing a lot of painting videos lately and, you know, just kind of showing stuff, seeing how they work, you know, kind of basic stuff. You know, we haven't done any real shootouts lately, and I thought, you know, maybe it's high time we did some comparison tests on similar products. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna do a shootout between all of our popular white colors versus some other whites that are available on the market too. So we got some popular whites here. I got some Rust-Oleum, some Kills, some Whiteout, some Molotow Premium, some Flame Orange, and I guess that's it for the setup. Now these aren't all the whites we have here. Well, we don't carry Kills or Rusto, but these aren't all the whites we carry. It just happens to be what we have in stock right now. So we're just doing a little shootout. It's not super scientific, you know, it's just showing some basic scenarios where you would be using the paint and how it would react in a certain situation. You know what I'm saying? So why don't we go ahead and get started with the video. I got a nice set up, so why don't we go take a quick tour of the set and then we can get cracking. Again, this is gonna be a pretty comprehensive video, so buckle in, get comfy, get some coffee, some cocoa, let's get cracking. All right, I'll see you guys in a second. All right guys, here is my first set right here. What we're gonna do is see how well the whites go over reds and blues. Now, I'm not saying that these stain, but they do tend to show through whites more than other colors. I've noticed that with buffing, reds and blues always tend to kind of punch through, even though they're not dyes. I'm not saying they're dyes, it's just the nature of the pigments tend to bleed through whites more. So we're gonna go ahead and play with that in a second. So I got that set up right there. Also, this is my third set, but we'll talk about that in a second. My second set is just going to be a staining set. So what I have here is these boards set up. We have some magic ink right here, red and blue. Of course, these are dye ink, so they are gonna stain more, but they're also red and blues, which are also the tougher colors to go over. I have them named right here. As you can see, I forgot Kills was with the Z, but we have all the different names there. That way we can do a line of each. We're gonna do one pass and then another pass and see how they look. Maybe we'll do a third pass and see how they look. That way we can really see. This is a really brutal test, guys. We're really gonna see how well these cover. A little prediction. I'm guessing that the Kills is gonna win this one because its primary purpose is made to be as a stain blocker. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, the next test we're gonna do is on this handsome bee right here. I know there's already shines on it, but we're gonna do a shine test. What I wanna do is see how clean the lines are, how much overspray you get. Now there's a lot of variables here, but we're just gonna do it anyways. We're just gonna do a couple shines over this surface, and we'll just do them next to each other like this. And that way you can kind of see how they relate to each other as a shine, because that's important for a white. It's not just the overall coverage, it's how solid and clean of a line you can get. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll be doing that in a second too. All right, in the final test, what we're gonna do is a coverage test over, like going over people, if you know what I mean. So if you're doing like a free wall or like a chill spot where you're trying to get that spot back, this is a way we can see how the whites work over different colors. And this has a lot of nice bright shades in it. This will be a good little base to see how well you get average coverage out of these cans. So that'll be the final test for that. And then we'll wrap it up and we'll call it a day. All right guys, before we get started, everyone keeps asking about the cats, and I think this is about as close as he's gonna let me get. This is there's probably like 6 or 7 different wharf cats. Oh, there he goes. Anyways. All right, before we get started, let's talk a little bit about the caps that we're gonna be using, because all these cans use different valves. Even these female valve European cans, they're all different valves. They also have different balances between the pressure of the flow of the paint. So it does create a lot of differences in how coverage will be perceived. So the best thing we can do is try to balance it out as best as we can. And it's a little difficult to do because they all cover different, they all have different pressure, and they all feature different valves, and they all react to caps differently. It's not equal across the board. But I've done my best. And so what I've done is I put Lego caps on the European cans, but even still between these 3 types of paints, they're still gonna paint a little bit differently. But the Lego does tone it down enough to give a nice balance of pressure. Now on the Kills can, I opted to use the New York outline cap because on these cans, they tend to be a little bit more flary. You get a nice more buttery flare in the Euro cans. The Kills does a pretty nice flare too, but it's got a different characteristic. So I think between the two, the New York outline balances nicely with the Lego cap on this can. Now for the Rust-Oleum, These feature a male valve, and you can't really mount anything on here. Now, I could have gone with the adapter route, but I'm trying to use a direct fit cap to see how it works. So what we're going to use on the Rusto is the AP Precise cap, because I feel like that gives it the nicest balance of pressure to output ratio in comparison to what we're using on here. Now again, this isn't exact. It's really hard to get them to match up, and that's about as close as we're going to get for this little experiment. Now, if you haven't used the Precise cap on the Rust-Oleum cans, you're really missing out. It looks exactly like the stock tip, so it can get a little confusing, but it creates a nicer, sharper spray, much more controllable than the stock tip. I think it's a beautiful cap. Don't sleep on the Precise cap on your Rusto cans. It's a great direct fit outline tip, but it's still a little bit thick, which I really like. So with that said, let's get started with our test. All right guys, we're at the first stage of our test. I figured we'd do the hardest first to see which one covers better over a stained surface. And like I said before, I think the Kills is gonna win this one because it's specifically designed for covering stains. So let's go ahead and start with the Rusto. Again, we're using the AP Precise cap on the Rust-Oleum can. So first, what I'm going to do is just do a test spray, make sure that there's paint in the straw, and we can go ahead and get started with that. Wait, hold on a second. Oh my God, I hate you. It appears that this one is clogged, and you know, it's really tough because, hold on one second. Fortunately, this is my only can of Rusto, I think. And this is kind of the bane of these male valves, is with the female valve, you have a much larger hole, and you can use a cap, like a calligraphy cap, to clear out any clogs much easier. And I've cleared almost, I'd say like 90% of all my female valves. I still have a tough time trying to clear these male valve Rusto cans. And I've had some luck with spraying acetone down inside of them. So we'll see if that'll work. If not, I don't know what we're gonna do because I don't have time to go to the store and pick up another can. You know, now granted, this was a used can, to be fair, but it's still frustrating. You know, I've had used female cans that clogged and I was able to unclog them. Yeah, unfortunately, that can is not gonna work. Hold on one second. All right guys, I went ahead and dug through my vintage can collection and I found a tall can of Rusto with a female valve, and I'm going to use a New York outline on this. If you haven't noticed, it's starting to have a little snow flurry, so this is a cold weather test as well. This right here is the pinnacle of American spray paint. High coverage, long-lasting, UV resistant, female valve, so you can utilize all the different wonderful caps. Why they switched the valve, I don't know. Some say it's to get rid of graffiti. I don't see how that helps at all. People still use them, so c'est la vie. But I don't think it's helping them in any way. For the average user, it could get a little frustrating. That said, we might not be able to do the coverage test with this because there's only about this much paint left in the can. Well, we'll do the coverage test on the stain, but we won't be able to do the big one. Sorry guys, they will at least be able to do this, do the shines, and we'll see what it's all about. All right, let's get cracking. I'm gonna do one pass on each. Let me make sure it's spraying, just to make sure. Okay, so one pass. All right, so that's the Rusto. As you can see, the Magic Ink red bled through the most. All right, let's start with the Kills now. All right, make sure it's spraying. Do it again. As you can see, the Kills covers a little bit more on one pass. The staining element of the red is still bleeding through. It's quite strong. It's a lot to ask from any spray paint. All right, next, let's try out this Montana white out. Let's see what that's all about here. All right, on one pass, as you can see, it's not covering as good as the Rusto. Now, that doesn't mean it's not a good covering for fills. This is just to see how well it matches on the stained surface. And I had a feeling because of the nitro formula, it wouldn't work as well as the oil base. Let's try the Molotow Premium. All right, let's do the Molotow Premium. As you can see, it's about the same as the Montana. Their formulas are very, very similar. I've never found their white to be very good for going over stained surfaces. The Rusto and the Kills are better. In fact, the Kills seems to be the best. On the blue, on the red, there's not a significant difference. Not a significant difference at all. So, on blues, the Kills seems to be the best. The Rusto is the second. These guys are a third so far. On reds, not a whole lot of difference, although the Rusto looks a little bit lighter right there. Hard to say. On the purples, the Kills did the best. Rusto did the second, third, and fourth. Let's try the Flame Orange. Now I do 4 on this one just because it's a little bit wider. I don't know if you guys can see here. That one is a little bit wider right there. So before you start crying foul, all right, let's take a look at it. Again, not a whole lot of coverage over the stain with the acrylic formula. Oil base seems to do best over the stain. Nevertheless, the stain still pushes through. But this is just one coat. Why don't we try 2 coats? Win this one. Oh my God, it clogged on me. Oh my God. I have an idea. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and try this out with the Rusto Fat. It should be less prone to clogging on this can. Now again, this is a very old can. I shook the hell out of it, but still, when they get really old, the pigments start to coagulate and you kind of get uneven spray. So I'm not gonna fault Rust-Oleum for this. This is not their fault. It's just a really old can. It just happens to be what I have. And again, we're just trying to see how it goes over the stained surface. So let's try that again. Layer number 2. Now this is a higher output cap. All right, let's go to the Kills next. Sorry about that. There's always a weird curveball getting thrown at me, right? All right, but that's what makes it fun. The chaos of life. All right, let's go ahead and do the next one. This is the Kills. Embrace the chaos, boys. All right, let's try the whiteout. Okay, now for the Molotov. Now for the Flame Orange. All right, guys, here we are on 2 coats. As you can see, the Rusto and the Kills, the oil base, tend to do way better when it comes to covering over stainy, inky surfaces. Even after this many coats, you can see that the red is just powering through everything. This is a brutal stainer. But check out the Garvey up here. It's getting attacked by the Rusto and the Kills. The whiteout does okay. The Molotow doesn't do very well over blues and purples, as you can see. And the Flame does a little bit better than the Molotov. They're all pretty equal when it comes to the red, though. Let's do another coat, because why not? Let's see what we can do. All right, let's take a look at them. Now this is, what was this again, 4 coats? This is 4 coats with all these different paints. As you can see, they all have a lot of trouble going over the red. Although it looks, the Flame Orange actually looks to be the best. That and the Kills for going over the red. The worst, I would say, would be the Molotow Premium, and surprisingly the Rusto, which is more similar to the Kills paint. Nevertheless, the 2 best I can see here are the Kills and the Flame Orange for covering reds. That said, the red is still shining through. I think we're gonna need probably 2 or 3 more coats of white to really block this out. So it's a hard one to buff. Kudos to Magic Ink. All right, now for the blue and the purple. As you can see, the Kills and the Rusto did best with these shades. And I gotta tell you, the Kills, like I said, the Kills is marketed as a stain blocker. It's what apartment managers use to clean up apartments after really nasty people leave and they have cigarette stains and shit all over the walls. So this is marketed as a stain blocker, and it really does its job. quite well, actually. These paints are not really marketed as stain blockers, although the whiteout is a little bit misleading in my mind, because it should at least perform as well as this in this type of aspect. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Montana can educate me on that. I will say this, I do like how these respond with fat caps and using shines with them and stuff like that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. One thing I want to point out too is, if you notice, this might not show up in the video, but the flame orange and the Montana whiteout have the most whites. They're more frosty, like a wedding cake. Where the Molotow Premium and the Kills, they tend to have more of an eggshell, like a off-white, if you will. It has a little bit of yellow to it. And surprisingly, the Rusto, to me, almost looks a little gray. And I don't think it's because it's an old can. I think that's just the way it looks. When you don't have it side by side with other stuff, you don't notice. Some people like the more eggshell, some people like the frosty. Hey, gray's okay with me too. All right, let's move on to the next step. Very illuminating. All right, let's do the next step of the test where we get to see how well they perform over reds and blues. Probably should have put a bit more red up here, but that's okay. It looks like the blues are pretty good too. But let's just go ahead. I'm gonna do a quick coat here. All right, dope, let's take a look at them. Now again, this is going over reds and blues, and they all do well. They actually all do quite well. I don't think you would be ill-served by any of them. A couple thoughts. The Kills, actually, it's kind of interesting. You know, it's been a while since I've used one side by side with a Rusto. I really appreciate the feel of the Kills valve. And it's funny because a lot of people refer to it as high pressure. It actually feels quite soft to me. Although it doesn't have a progressive valve like the Euro cans do. But it's not, I wouldn't call it high pressure. I wouldn't call it that. Nevertheless, they all did quite well. All right, up next we're gonna do the shine test. We're just gonna do a series of just simple lines. Again, this has shines in it already, but we're just gonna do a test, so use your imagination. So I'm just gonna do a series of successive lines going with all the different brands. I don't have a whole lot left of this Rusto, so we're gonna have to make do. And again, this has a Rusto fat on it, which isn't the fairest comparison, because it is fatter, thicker. But we gotta make this work, baby. We gotta do it. All right, so first the Rusto. All right. Okay, very clean, very thick, very nice, very even. And looking at next to this other white, you do see that it's a little bit more gray. Let's get the next color. All right, up next is the Kills. Very controllable, even spray. I like it quite a lot. All right, let's try out the whiteout. The whiteout. White. Oh, that's the Molotow. Let's try that again. You know what? We'll just leave that as the Molotov line. We'll just have to make a note of that. So that's the Molotov. This is the whiteout. This is the whiteout. Perfect. And then we'll do the Molotov over here. We'll just have to remember that they're transposed. All right, dope. Let's go ahead and give the Flame Orange a try. This is actually one of my preferred whites for doing shines. I'm rather fond of it. I think it gives a really nice, clean, sharp line, and the price for what you get for the price is quite a tremendous value. They all do fantastic. They're all great. I don't think you'll be missing out with any of them. There is a little bit of valve difference, a little bit of difference in the feeling of the valve. The sharpness of the line, the lack of excessive overspray, it leaves you with a very nice, rigid image. So you would be well served by any of them. But anyways, let's move on to the next step. All right guys, before we move to the next step, I just want to do a quick tag with this Molotov can because I really like tagging with these. They have like the perfect flow. You know what I'm saying? It's just like beautiful. That yellow fat, man. God, such a gorgeous cat. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and do the final step. We're just gonna do a quick little straight letter and close out the video. And that way we can kind of see how they go. Unfortunately, I don't have enough Rusto to do the fill-in on this part, so we might not be able to use it. But I'll use the flame orange, the kills, the whiteout, and the Molotov on this. So I'm gonna start with the flame orange first. All right, dope. We're gonna go ahead and drop a quick little splash on this. I'm gonna be using gloss coral in the painter's touch. That'll just kind of, I was gonna say white out the background, but we're not. We're going to coral out the background. Sorry about that. Let's get cracking. And again, I'm using the precise cap. Look at that, it's a nice medium outliner. Great stuff. All right, let's add a few little more dots and doodads. I got this scrap can of reed here. It's pretty old, but it should work fine. Let's get cracking. All right, dope. We're about to lay in our outline. Let's take a quick little look at the whites really quick, at the whites, and see how they look. As you can see, they all go over the grilled surface quite well. You would be served well with any of them, really. One thing I want to point out is check out the Slimer. It's still running, baby. That's pretty cool. All right, dope. That came out pretty good. As you can see, all the whites do great. They cover good. They work great with the acrylic outline color. Don't have any issues with the paint eating each other, anything like that. I would say for general graffiti purposes, they're all gonna serve you quite well, including the Rusto, especially if they fix their valves. I gotta tell you, I really enjoy them all. It was a pleasure using kills again. While it is stinky, it definitely cuts the mustard. It goes over things quite well. The flame orange is still my favorite white for all around use because it flares so nicely. It's great for throwaways, fill-ins, all kinds of stuff. Coverage wise, it's right up there with the kills. The Molotov, I generally don't use it for fills because I don't find it hides as well, but it does fine. But it's great for piecing in productions and stuff like that. The Montana whiteout, I mean, it's good. It's a good white, but you know, it's kind of like the covers all colors. I expected something more from it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not gonna fool me. So, I don't know. I don't think I would, I'm not gonna say I wouldn't buy it because it's definitely a high coverage white, but it's, you know, it doesn't stain block like the kills. And it's not as clean as the Molotov, that's for sure. And I think the flame orange covers better than it anyways. So yeah, I think I would probably say for productions Molotov, for all around graffiti use, I would use the flame orange or the kills. They're both great. I guess that's pretty much it. So why don't we go ahead and close out this video and we'll move on to the next one. Ah, what's up, guys? How y'all doing out there? Well, that was a lot of fun. Very enlightening experience, too. You know, because there's a lot of rumor and speculation about what does what, this does that, things of that nature. And I think it's good to kind of take a moment to kind of test the mettle of everything, you know, see how they all react with each other in common situations. And I guess that's kind of what I like to do here. Now, a couple thoughts. I still love that kills. It's a great paint. It really is. I mean, if you're at a hardware store and you just want to pick up a white, you can't beat it. But it is very stinky, so I definitely recommend wearing a respirator with it. Generally, the oil-based paints, tend to have the most petrochemical stuff in them. So keep that in mind. But boy, it's so nostalgic using that, it really is. And you know, I wanted to touch on a few things because I have a lot of older writers often hitting me up like, hey, make sure you teach the kids about the rules. You know, like don't go over pieces with your throw up and things like that. The young child running wild out in the street, you know what I mean? But we were all there. We were all like that. Nevertheless, you know, while there are some rules and some unwritten rules that are out there, and that's definitely one of them. You know, you always want to create things onto the next level when you go over somebody, you know, and you have to be conscious of your spots. You know, like there are yards, abandoned spots, under bridge spots that people often go back and paint over and over again. And obviously we don't want to discourage young writers from getting up, you know. And those are places where you get your chops. You know, when I was a kid in Modesto, California, we had a thing called 7th Street Bridge. And it's still there, actually. People are still piecing there. When I was a kid, it wasn't everyone's dream to be like a throwy guy. You know what I mean? Like, throwies were just part of your journey. You know, it's like, yeah, you did throwies, but you wanted to be like the next Slick. You know, the guy doing the big productions, expanding graffiti, taking it to a whole new level. So I don't know. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I did the My Pillow guy. You know what I mean? That's why I talked about the My Pillow guy, because there's still redemption for you guys. You still have redemption. It's not over yet. The game never ends. But you know, I just want to encourage kids to do better things with their lives. And don't get me wrong, I love doing a big fat silver still. I still do. But don't think that's the pinnacle of where you need to be. You can be wherever you want to be. You can do whatever you want. And I think of this quote. It's players do what they want. Suckers do what they can. And I want you guys to be a player. All right, guys, I gotta go. This is artprimo.com, 206-365-4083. Artprimo.com, 206-365-4083. I want you to be a player in the game. A player. I'll see you guys later.